Assalamu alaikum everybody. This is Mr. Mudathir from Legacy School and this is ICT, and in today's topic we're going to talk about database. Now this is one of the practical units that we have in the IGCSE curricula, the one that we study from year 9, 8, year 9, 10, 11 and 12, and it is involved or included in the IGCSE final exam. Now, let's get quickly into the terminologies of database. Let's start with what is a database. On the book here, it says that a database is an organized collection of data. Now, once you hear the word collection of data or database, the first thing that could come to mind is tables. All right. So we can actually store data on a Microsoft Excel, just like this one over here. But Microsoft Excel is a flat kind sort of a table to store your data. Now I have a collection of data over here, and this is Kevin Cookie Business. It's a business that delivers cookies to clients. There are two reasons that we don't mostly use Microsoft Excel or spreadsheets in general to store data. Well, first of all, you might want um, a relational database. You might want to create more than one table in one file, and in order to do that, you need to create a database, or you need to use a database software. Now, that's the first thing. Microsoft Excel provides a flat tables, but databases could create. You have the feature of creating a relational database. Now, the second reason why is that in Microsoft Excel, you only have a little over a million record over here. You can go down up to 1 million and something, and then Microsoft Excel will not take more data. Now, imagine that this is your shop or your kitchen or your restaurant, and those are your clients. And today you received a new order from another client or another customer. So you're gonna have to write down all their information. Let's say six, and I'll press on tab and write Muhammad, tab, last name. Let's say Ahmed, and then you're gonna write their email, phone number. Let's say 912345678. Address. Let's say Khartoum, and you're gonna carry on until you finish the last detail that you're going to need. I'm just entering random information over here, and then a note. Yeah, let's say that this is a new customer. Now this is a very exhausting kind of a process. Whenever I have a new customer, then I'm gonna have to add all their new names. Now let's assume that I have the same customer and he wants to add a new order. Well, then I'm gonna have to create again a whole record over here with their name, their all the information that they have, and then I'm gonna have to place the new order. Well, in relational database, I don't have to do that because in relational database I can create one table for the client's information and then another table for the orders, so that I don't have to every single time when I have a new client, I don't have to write down their information from the beginning and give them a new ID. That's the reason why we use relational database. Now let's get to it. We need to use a software in order to create a database. Let's define what is a database program first, and then let's open a database software. A database program is a software which stores and retrieves data in a structured way. Well, it's a software, all right, but then it stores the same way that I stored the data over here, store them, and then retrieve them. Retrieve means to get back at them whenever you want to, or to get to part of them whenever I want to. Let's say that today I got Dorothy here and she wants to make a new order. And I don't want to ask Dorothy for all of her information. So I'm going to retrieve her information from the database that I want because I already have her information. So Retrieve could be like open or um, display part of the information or the data that you have. Let's define what is a field, what is a record, and what is a file before we jump to the database program. Now, a field is a single item of data, such as forename or username or date of birth or so on. So in Excel here, we call this a column. Yeah, this is a column. But in database, we don't call it a column, we call it a field. And a field is a single item of data, such as uh, client ID, forename, username, first name, last name, phone number, date of birth. We call it a field. Now, what is a record? A collection of fields, for example, all the information about one person or one item. So a record is a collection of fields. Now, this is a record. Why did they say that it's a collection of fields? Because I have all the information about one client or one customer from different fields, the customer ID, the field of first name, last name, email, but then I have information about one client, right? So this is a record and this is a field. Now, a file, which is our last definition right now, it's in database terms, it's an organized collection of records, usually where all the records are organized so that they can be stored together. A file is a file, right? A database is a file, right? So if you were asked or if you got this question in the final exam, you have to come up with a formal definition. So that's why we have to learn this. It's an organized collection of records. They could have said also an organized collection of fields, but they chose records instead. So it's an organized collection of records. Now, these are records and a file, these are the records, right? And a file is an organized collection of records, plural. Yeah? Now let's jump into the software that we're going to use to create databases. The software that we're going to use right now is Microsoft Access. All you have to do is type Access in the search bar down at the task menu, and you will get Microsoft Access. And this is the software that we're going to use today to create databases. Microsoft Access is part of the Microsoft Office. Once you download and install Microsoft Office, you will have Microsoft Word, Microsoft Excel, PowerPoint, and Access, and some others, right? So let's click on Microsoft Access. The first thing that you're going to get is this window over here. It's asking you what exactly do you want to create. And the first option here is the go-to option, a blank database. You want to open a database file that is entirely blank and you want to create it and customize it. Depends on your own needs. Now you can get an online database from here and you can search or browse the recent templates, or you can search online for templates that you can use if the model that you want to create is close to that template. You'd be saving yourself a lot of time, but preferably that you choose a blank database so that you can create it from scratch. This is an IT thing. You always have to do every single thing and watch and know every single detail that you created so that later on when you have any problem at some point, you would know where the problem would go. So let's go ahead and click on blank database. Either you double click over here or click on create. Well, congratulations, you have created your first database file. Now, automatically Microsoft Access created a table with the table name over on the left hand side over here with the table name, table number 1. And this is the table on the over on the right. This is the table that got created automatically by Microsoft Access. Now you can rename the table and you can carry on and create your table records and fields from here. Now this is the ID. I'm going to go ahead and type, I'm going to make it more detail. I'm going to write more details about it. Let's say customer ID and press enter. Once you press enter, you get to select the data type for that field. All right. Now the customer ID is it has to be sort of like numbers, but then let's type here. This is the customer's name, and the customer name is usually text, right? Yeah, let's write customer. Once I press enter, it will automatically give me the details of the data type for the next column. Now over here, maybe I want to have their phone number, let's assume, and then write telephone or cell phone. Now, if I press tab or enter, it's gonna create a new field for the next piece of information that I want to create on my table. Now let's try to create the entire information that I want or the fields that I want to create on my table. Now let's try putting them side by side because I want to create exactly the same piece of information that I have from Microsoft Excel. Now the first one is ID and the second one is first name. So I'm going to try to rename this. I'm going to choose text and then I'm going to write first name. Now the minute I press enter, it's going to go to the next one. Enter last name. Last name is text. And then I'm going to write the field name, last name, enter. The second one or the second field is email address. The email address, I can look for email address over here, or I can just simply choose text over here. Now I'm going to carry on until I finish this creating this table. Now I created all the fields that I want over here on my table. Let's try to add details. This is customer ID. Now the first name is John. Automatically it gave me the ID 1 right here. Last name is, let's say, A. Email ID at yahoo.com. Phone number 1234567 Address Khartoum, Sudan. I'm going to carry on till the last record. Now let's add more and more details so that we can have a table so that we can work with. Okay, so I came up with this table. All right, if you want to select all the records, you have to use the far right or the far left side boxes over here, and if you want to select the columns, you have to use the same way as Microsoft Excel. Now, at the bottom right side over here, we have two types of design. The first one is datasheet view, which is the one that we're using right now, and then we have design view over here. Now, before I go to the design view, the minute I click on this button, it's going to ask me to rename the table, and it's actually very handy just so that you have all your work organized. It's really good to give each and every table on your database a name. Now, this one I'm going to call customers ID. ID. Now, this is the design view. Now over here you'll find all the fields that you have created with their names over here: customer ID, first name, last name, email address, and so on, so on. So, and then in front of each and every one you have the data type that you specified earlier for each and every one. Now remember, the data type is a whole different science that we need to learn more and more because it is so important and it's so interesting and you have so much to learn in that field. But right now, just so that we don't have we don't need to specify each and every one, we're going to mostly choose text because first name is a text, last name is a text, and then email is a text. But then we could have different kinds of data types that could be more suited to email. but then we can get to that in different topics. But right now, this is the design view, and you can also specify more fields and choose their data type from here. Now let's get back to the datasheet view over here. Now, right now, I'd like to create a new table. Now, this table contains customer IDs. I want to create a new table to contain all the orders that the customers or the clients are going to be making. So I'm going to go to the tab at the top over there, the one that's called Create, and then I'm going to find the group of commands that has the name tables. Now over here, I can choose either a new table or a table design or SharePoint list. Now I'd like you to go ahead and select a new table over here. This drops us into creating a new table right here. As you can see, I have customer ID and then I have a new table uh, using the tab view over here. All right, so let's get to it. The first field is going to be again customer ID. The second one is again before entering the field name, it always asks me about the data type. What is the data type or the type of the data that's going to be stored in this field? I'm going to go ahead and choose text, and I'm going to write customer name. Okay, so I got the first one is ID automatically. The second one I chose that I want to have an order ID, customer ID, order date, cookies order, revenue, and then order field. Now order field over here, I chose the data type. Let's go ahead and open the design view from the bottom left, the bottom right side of the screen. I'm gonna have to rename this the table first. Let's choose order ID table and press OK so that I get to open the design view. Now, the data types over here, order ID, I chose number, customer ID, also number because it's an ID, it's not a name. Order date, I chose date and time over here. And then cookies order, how many cookies, that is also a number. Now, revenue, I chose currency because it's money, right? So currency is the appropriate data type for this field. Order field, it's a yes or no kind of uh, data type. Now, this is very interesting because when you get back to the datasheet view, it's going to be like either an empty box or a tick box. Now, is the order, has this order been delivered yet or not? This is a yes or no kind of a situation. It's either uh, this order has been delivered or it has not been delivered. It cannot go halfway. You cannot say that the driver is on the way because computers mostly use with 0 and 1, the same as businesses. Either it's been delivered or not. And this is very interesting because it's going to be very useful for us with the main purpose of this database. Later on, we're going to know how this is very important. Now, the revenue per cookie, this is calculated. Yeah, this is a calculated data type. The same thing that we used to do with Microsoft Excel last year and the year before. We used to enter formulas. Over here, it's called calculated. All right, I'm gonna try and do this one more time. When I chose the data type for revenue per cookie, I chose calculated. Now let's get back to the calculation that I made. I'm gonna right click on the field and I'm gonna choose modify expression. Once you chose, let's have an example over here. If I want to create a new field with a calculated data type, I'm going to right click, choose calculated field, and then click on number. It's going to open this dialog over here. Now, this is where I'm going to write my formula or expression as it's called over here. Now, I want to divide the revenue, so I'm going to double click on the revenue over here. Now, you know the division sign is slash, and then I'm going to divide it by cookies order, right? And then press OK. That is all you have to do in order to get the calculated data type. Now over here, it's gonna get the information without you having to enter it because it's gonna divide the revenue, this one over here, divided by cookie orders. Now, once you fill those two, it's going to generate this revenue per cookie automatically. Now, let's go ahead and click cancel. Now you know how to do a calculated data type. Now, in the next part of this video, I'm going to explain to you how to create relationships between those two tables. Right now, I have a database file with two tables inside of that database. Now, I want to create a relationship through between those two tables. Now I have over here, I have the customer ID, and over here, this is the customer IDs table, right? Double click and it will open, and double click and it will open. Now the customer ID over here, one is Kevin, right? Now I want to connect this one. Number one, I want the table, the database, and myself and everyone to understand that Kevin has the customer ID one, so that the next time I don't have to say Kevin Stratford from let's say Seattle, from that state, and he has the ZIP code this, and he's from the United States. I can just say customer ID number one, and automatically the computer is going to get me all the information that I need from both tables, customer information and all the orders that he placed in the past. Now let's go ahead and go to database tools, and over here in the relationships you'll find relationships. Now click on that. Now it's showing you tables, right? So I'm going to go ahead and in some Microsoft Offices it's going to show to the right side, the right hand side of the screen, but over here, because this is Microsoft Office 2010, it's going to open a message over here asking you to choose which tables you want to add. Now I'm going to choose the first one, customer ID, and you'll see that this is the field of work of relationships over here. I added the customer ID to the relationships field. Now I'm going to choose the next one because I cannot have a relationship with one table, right? Relationships has to be between two or more tables. Yeah, so let's add the second one, order ID, double click and it will show over here and press close. Now you can maximize and edit the view design over here however you want it so that you can see everything inside that table. Now this is customer ID and I have all the information that I need inside that table, all the information that exists inside that table, and this is the order ID and it has everything that there is inside the table. Now that the computer knows that those are the two tables that I want to create relationships with, but it doesn't know which fields exactly that I want to connect. I'm not going to connect both all the table information over here. Now I want to create a relationship between customer ID from the customer ID table to the customer ID in the ordered ID table. So I'm going to drag customer ID and place it on this table. A dialog is going to open. Now. It's asking me to verify the information, the table or the query, customer ID. You want it to be related to the table from the other table, order ID, and you want the customer ID on the other table to be connected, right? All you have to do is press create. Now, if you don't see this line, then there's something wrong. But the minute you have successfully created the relationship, a line will show up. This is how it works. However you move it, it's going to have a line coming from customer ID here to customer ID there. Now, when you're done, you can press close over here. Now I have created the relationship. I'm 100% sure that there's nothing else to be done. I didn't forget anything. Close. It's going to ask me, this is a recurring thing with Microsoft Access. Whatever you do, at the end, it's going to ask you to save, whether you want to save your changes or not. Now I'm going to go ahead and press yes. Okay, so far we've been entering information directly into the database. Now this is not a user-friendly kind of way to allow the users to enter information. Remember this term, user-friendly. Now, entering the data directly to a database is not a convenient way for all the customers or all the users to enter information. So we can create forms. We can create forms. It's a more elegant, more organized way for users with less knowledge from an IT person to enter data. So let's go ahead and create a form. Guys, some of the things that we are asked to do in an assessment, they are just right in front of us. Now, I'm asking you to create a form. If they did that, then just go ahead and click on create, and you'll get a group of functions that you can do over here or buttons that you can do over here. And then you have forms, and then click on form, and there you go. That is it. Now, what you see over here, this is a form. All right, this is the customer ID number one. He's in Seattle. His name is Kevin, WA. Last name is Stratford. This is his address, email address, United States, and so on, so on, so on. And over here, those are the orders that he had placed. Yeah. So it's this is the relationship that we made. Yeah. It's connecting that customer ID number one is Kevin, and those are the orders that he's made. This is one of the benefits, the biggest benefits of creating relationships. Now, over here at the bottom, this is how you can navigate from one customer ID to the other. Let's press next. See, this is the second customer. That's Cheryl. Her ID is one, and those are the orders that she has created. This this is the result of the relationship that we have created. Again, in Microsoft Excel, you have two types of views. This is form view, and this is design view. Once you stop, it's going to give you the name of the view that you have. This is layout view, and then we have design view. In the design view, you can arrange it however you want, resize every single object inside of the form. You can do whatever you want. Maybe add a logo. Yeah, right here you can add a logo of your company somewhere over here. If you have a logo, you can make the size of the report or the orders bigger or smaller, depends on your need. Let's go back to layout view, and let's see form view. Now, guys, on your own time, I'd like you to practice how to edit the layout of the form, the design, how to add images, how to change the colors, because those are one of the things that you may get asked during an assessment or the final exam in the IDCSE ICT exam. All right, so that is it. I'm gonna ask the computer to save this, or I can just close it, and it'll ask me if you want to save the changes to the design of the form customers. I'm gonna say yes, and thank you so much. It asked me if I want to have a name for this form. I'm gonna go ahead and write order form and press enter. See, every single changes that you make as you go and create your own database, everything is going to show up at this here, all access object. In the all access object over here, you're going to have everything shown that you want to create. Now you can go back and create your form, or open your form by double clicking on this button over here, the name that we gave them. All right, the next thing that we're going to create is a query. A query. A query has a lot of benefits. We can create search for forms over here, or we can filter data. Let's assume that you have delivery employees, and you don't want to bother the delivery employees by making them read all the client's information over here. You just want to filter those information. You want to give them the order details, but then from the customers table, you only want to give them, let's say, first name. You don't want the last name, you don't want the email address, but you want to give them the phone number and the address and maybe a note over there. So in order to do that, you will be able to create queries, or you will be getting the use of queries from the Microsoft Access. Now, to do that, you can go ahead and write on create, click on create, and you'll find a group of functions that are called queries. You can choose wizard, query wizard, or you can choose query design. I'm going to go ahead and click on query design, but if you want to choose query wizard, both of them are really useful and they get the job done. Now, I clicked on query design and this is what I get. Now, first, the same thing that happened when we wanted to create relationships. We want to specify which tables are we going to use when designing the query or that involves the query. Now, I'm going to go ahead and include both tables, double click here, and then double click on orders, and then just press close. Let's select the pieces of information that we want to display on this query. I'm going to go ahead and drag the first name, phone number over here, address over here, and then from the orders table, I can select the customer's ID. Do I need? Yeah, I don't need that. And maybe order date, uh, cookies order, and then revenue. Let's see if I need more information. Well, that's it. I think that is the information that I want to include on my query. Now let's click on the datasheet view so that we can see how would the query look like. And this is it. These are the only information that I want to show to certain people without having to open the entire database to them. I also have pivot table. It's creating. It's going to take some time. Let's see. Pivot table is not so much practical. Pivot chart. This is very useful if you want the computer to show you charts. Let's get back to design view. Now we have created the query table, the query with the information that we want from both tables. Uh, it's not a report, it's close to a report, but it's sort of like a summarized report that contains certain information that you want certain people to view. Yeah, instead of just showing them all the information that you have on your database. The next thing that we're going to create is reports. Remember that every time you have to do something, you're going to have to save it or press on close, and then it's going to save. So I'm going to go ahead and just save it. And this is my query. Let's say that, let's call it delivery. Just an FYI, we can use the query so that we can only display the orders that has not been filled yet. We can open that later, and we can try to edit going to the design view, the datasheet view, design view, and then try to edit cookies, order queries, order date, customer date. We have a field that shows us if it has been delivered or not. This one right here, order filled. Let's add it. I don't think I have. Order filled, yes. All right, so if you take a closer look, you'll find out that this is the field name. The first row over here is the field name, and the second row is which table is it coming from. Yeah, this is from customers. These are from orders table. And the tick box over here is it shows us whether I want to show it on the query or not. Yeah. Now over here, the last record is criteria, and criteria over here. I'm going to come to order field. I'm going to come over here and press equals no and oh and press enter. Now this should work. Now let's go and try to get back to the datasheet view. Over here, it's only showing me the two orders that has not been delivered, right? So let's get back to the order. You can see that I have one and two, only two orders that has not been delivered. But when I get to the delivery query, I can only see the two records that has not been delivered. Now this is the main benefit that we get from creating a query. Now let's say that I don't want the address or maybe the order date to show up. I'm going to just untick it from here and get back to the datasheet view. It took out that piece of information outside. Let's assume that You have your manufacturer or you have your kitchen somewhere, and then you have a warehouse at another place, and you want to send them the information about the delivers or the deliveries that has not been uh, fulfilled yet. Now you're going to use queries for that purpose. It's really handy, right? The last thing that we're going to do today is how to create a report. Now, a report is something summarized and inclusive of all the details that you have on your database. Now, whenever you hear the word create, automatically you have to assume that you're going to go to create tab over here. Look for the groups. You have templates, tables, queries, forms, and reports over here. Now you can go to report design, or you can go directly to creating a report. This one you're gonna have to do it by yourself, or a blank report. Yeah, I want you on your own time. I want you to try creating a form using a wizard, and I want you to try to creating a query with a wizard on your time. Again, a table also. You try to create a table using a table design, or try using the wizard as much, because on the book I noticed that they're using wizards all the time. Over here we're trying to do everything, every single step, manually. Yeah, but the wizard is more like a question and answer kind of a function. Yeah. All right, so let's go ahead and create and report. Now this gives you report of everything, every single information that you have on the table. Again, when you go to the bottom right side of the screen, you'll find report view, this way, or you also have print preview if you want to print it out. But this is gonna have more than one page, but you can actually print this out. It's very useful as well. You have layout view. You can choose to move all the information on one page instead of having multiple pages. You can also design, which is it's a very useful thing, because once you create a report, it is not how you want it to look like. You can move those parts and put them below. You can reduce the sizes of each and every column or field or text box that you want. But in general, reports are created for mostly for the managerial level of any organization, so that they can know exactly every single detail that is happening in the organization. And that's how you create a report. It's very easy. Okay, so let's get back and recap to everything that we've done today. We created a database simply by choosing to click on blank database on Microsoft Excel. Then we created two tables. Again, once you hear the word create, you're going to have to go and create over here. But once you create a database, automatically you have a default table over there. If you want to create more tables, you can create as many as you want of tables in one database. And then we created a relationship between both tables over here. Okay, now we have the two tables over here. We created relationships between the two tables so that we don't have to have repeated information written or stored on both tables. And then after creating the relationship, we created a query. A query is a way of displaying certain information from the entire database, uh, any single table that you choose to view some information from that. Then you can do that using queries. And then we created forms. Forms is a way for users to enter information. It's more clear and easy for uh, people with less knowledge or general knowledge about IT to use to to enter information onto the database. And lastly, we learned how to create a report and why do we need reports for. Usually, maybe during the exams, they're gonna ask you to print out a report. You have to create a report first in order to print it out. And during the exam, you will have some of the questions that you have to print them out, and some of the questions that you have to take screenshots of and put them on a certain folder. So you during the exam you have a soft copy that you have to save and a hard copy that you have to print out. Well, that is it. This is it for database. Uh, with that, I've finished an entire unit in the IDCSE ICT curricula, which is a database. Wait a second. Let me get to the top of the first page of this unit. There it is, database. We understood the basic terminology of the database. What is a flat file? A flat file is a database with only one table, and then we understood primary key. What is a primary key? A primary key is basically the ID over here that we have here or here. A primary key is the ID that we have created. The ID is called primary key because it is unique. Only certain code is given to certain people, because I cannot have two customers having the same order ID, for example. An order ID is different. This is one, this is two, this is three, this is four, this is five. I cannot have two orders with the same order ID. The same goes in customers. Customers they have a unique ID that identifies them. Let me open the customers. Yeah. So this is the primary key. Now let's set a primary key. Okay, to set a primary key, you have to go to the design view. Now I'm gonna go ahead and click yes. All right, now as you can see, customer ID already has sort of a key shape on it, so I don't have to do anything. Automatically, it shows that this is the primary key. Once you click on auto number, it automatically sets this field as primary key, meaning that everything that you enter in this field, it cannot be redundant or duplicated. I cannot have a new field over here with the name with the ID 1, but automatically the minute I start typing, it's going to give it number 6. Yeah. However, if that didn't happen automatically, you will have the primary key over here. You can go ahead and just select it, but because you can only have one primary key in every table, this one is not active. So if this is not your primary key, you can just select it and press on primary key right. Now we already know the advantages and disadvantages of a flat file and a relational database file. We already know what that data types are. Whether if you want the field to contain numbers, letters, yes or no, or an equation, and so on. We already know how to create a flat database. That's very simple. Create a database with only one table, right? Create a relational database. We now know how to create a relational database, or create a relationship between two tables in a database. How to set appropriate data types? Easy. That is what we have been doing. Once we click on any field over here, let's get back to the datasheet view. Once we click on any field while we are creating the field, it's going to ask us about the data type right here. Let's say over here, see, it's asking us about the data type, whether it's a text, number, currency, and so on. How to edit any data entry, that's very easy. How to add a new field, I just did that. Perform searches using queries, perform calculations. This is what we did with the thing that we did with the order in the orders table. Let's go back to the design view. No, that's not the order form. Oh, sorry, the order table over here. Whether it's a yes or no, that is a calculated data type. Yes, calculated data type. And what we did with the order form over here, sorry, yes, the delivery query over here, showing only the records with uh, the unfulfilled orders. That is also an action of creating calculated data types. We created reports so that management can see We can also, it's very easy to export reports or print them out, sort the data in a report. That is all very easy. With that, we have finished the entire unit of database. In some other books, it's called data or data manipulation or so or so. We just have to read through the unit to know exactly what we are learning. Thank you very much for attending and listening and watching. Take good care. Bye.